enough as good enough.
Welcome to our weekly podcast, Good Enough, with your co-hosts, Sam Lewis and Mark Lips. Our goal on Good Enough is to interview guests who do not let being perfect keep them from achieving their dreams. Whether it be writing a book, growing a business, achieving some other success, all of these people are heartfelt, passionate, and good enough to be noticed and guests on our podcast. We welcome them, and we also thank you for joining us today.
I'll forget that. So,
hey, Sam,
what's it? So, are you?
I understand you're hiring a CEO, and I didn't get a call.
You didn't apply.
I think it should be a given. If the letters C, E, and O are in there, just call me.
What do you
and the CEO can work remotely, right?
No. No, it's funny. I've gotten these resumes from like firefighters. Got a dishwasher. Like, what are they just going down and clicking?
What is the CEO position for?
It's for a local nonprofit that it's called Lifelong Access. I used to be at the board there.
I've got great experience with non-profitable things. I could run
around that I feel position. The same way.
I could run that position like a boss.
Like a boss.
That's right. So, hey everybody, welcome to Good Enough. I'm Mark Lips, co-host with my longtime friend. We've terrorized Mount Vernon Township High School together back in the day, Sam Lewis. Our sponsors include the Ripe Choice Farm Stay and Catering in Northern California, and the Happy Friday Neighbors newsletter that comes out every Friday and is just filled with all kinds of nonsensical stuff. Sam, what you got?
Over here, it's brought to you by the Finally Friday Philosophy, the PPP Substack, which I'm not as regular as Mark is on his, but yeah, it's regular enough. And Pride Staff, a staffing agency, headhunting, recruiting, trying to find a CEO position right now. And I don't know how many interviews I've done in the last. I've read over 60 resumes.
Well,
60 resumes.
You know me well enough. You probably don't need a resume, but
yeah, that's why I didn't call you.
Sam,
I'm getting paid for this gig. I can't just serve up any old,
old geezer.
Yeah, he's an old geezer.
Hey, honey, guess what? We're moving to Bloomington.
If you don't like him, he's probably not going to last long. So,
so I'm excited. This is going to be, of all the people we've talked to on Good Enough, I don't think we've ever had a romance novelist.
Which one did you read?
Well, there's more. Well, I read the first one, Trusting Love, right? That's the first of her trilogy.
Is that the one with the twin brothers?
Picture of me on the front cover. You see the picture of me on the cover?
Figure out which one I read.
And that's Tammy back in the day, picture of her on the cover, and
I gravitated. I just was reading I read I Loved You Yesterday.
Oh, I read Trusting Love. Is that what that is? Yeah, Trusting Love. And you read I Loved You Yesterday?
Yeah, anything, it starts
that means that the love was not trusting and no longer the love. I loved you yesterday.
You got my attention when you say it involves the brothers, and she made a bad choice on twin brothers. I'm like, oh boy, I got to read this one.
All right, so
she's a good writer.
A different one. All right, I got Trusting Love, which I think is the part one. She can let us know that, but it's pretty. I mean, I got so many questions just about writing a romance novel, for her. Like I got these visions in my mind about,
I
research.
I can't, I have a lot of questions about writing in general, you know that, but writing a romance
Yeah,
novel, there's, it's obvious she's doing stuff
yeah.
in it. And I'm like, where did she learn that? How do you learn
Right,
that?
right. Well, that's what I'm talking about. I've got
Yeah.
to, and where does it come from? Does it come from as a little girl fantasizing about romance and what the, true romantic world would be like, and
By the way,
trials and
listeners, this is
tribulations.
true romance stuff. It's not soft porn. I would not
I
call
just
it
got to
soft.
imagine that stop porn. Well, have you
It,
looked at
it,
page 45? No, like you wonder about her husband. All
well,
right. Well, we'll
Julie's
get
on.
Julie on
I
the phone.
just got a notification. She's on, waiting on us.
Okay, let's get her.
Let's
Let's
just
get her
go ask
going.
her
It
some
may take me a
questions.
second to get over there, but I'll see you on the flip side.
Can one of the nurses' aides help you?
Yeah,
I'll
that's what
see
we'll
you
do.
over there.
Oh,
There she is.
Julie! Oh my
Hello
gosh, you look
there.
like your picture. That's
That's
great.
a good thing, right?
That's a great thing. A
Close
lot of
enough.
times,
What were you expecting, Mark?
well, no, a lot of times people, when they, it's like they get it doctored up. There's
Well, no,
airbrush.
it's not like
Can't
you're.
do that here. That's her, man. That is
Here I
right.
am.
It's not like your Tinder pictures. That's different.
Much
Hey,
different
well, so
platform.
Julie, my name's Mark Lips. I've
I'm
known
Hi,
you
Mark.
Sam
for a long
Lewis.
Hi,
time.
Sam. Nice to meet you both.
Julie, I can't believe we never met.
You know what? The longer I looked at our LinkedIn, I'm like, we have so many shared
I know.
connections. How have we not met?
I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
yeah. Well, let's enough of that. Let's talk about so
Well, first of all,
first of all,
we
I
each
read
write a
Trusting
different
Love.
book.
That's the first book, right?
That is the first book in my second trilogy.
First book and second trilogy.
So
So
I
you
read
Yes.
this
really
one.
quick with it.
So yes, so that is my first book in my first trilogy.
That
Yes.
Ah.
Yes.
So I read. I say what lured me in was it Twin Brothers, the brothers, and I'm like, yeah, I gotta read. I'm gonna read this
Gotta
one.
know. I gotta
I
know.
gotta know this.
Yeah. So anyway, explain. First of all, I guess just so we can bring because I think it's like my wife says, you missed the first part of your thought. You only vocalized the second part, and so I don't know what you're saying, Mark. So let's let the viewers in on who you are and what it is you do on a regular basis, writing romance novels, which is a first for us, by the way.
I'm
interviewed
honored.
a lot of authors, but never romance.
Well, wonderful. I'm happy to be the first one.
Yeah.
Well, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and
Absolutely. Happy to. Well,
just
thank
remember
you both.
Mark's out in California. Mark's in
That's right.
California, so we got a whole country between us. So
Okay, well, let's cover the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, my name is Julie Kavickas, and I am a contemporary romance author. I have been writing romance stories. Well, it was actually a pandemic hobby for me. It was one of those moments of lockdown where my kids were just right next to me the whole time, trying to struggle and teach classes and be on Zoom and all this stuff. And it kind of led me down a path of just needing a creative space. And so I started digging out an old screenplay that I had, and I turned it into a romance novel.
Really?
And it was,
Wow.
it was really just like a fun exercise, just something to like give me something to work on that wasn't, work focused or parenting focused. And the longer that I started to spend with it, the more potential I started to see. And I had these, crazy dreams about bringing it to life and publishing it. And, fast forward 5 years now, and I have 6 books out there with more to
That's
come.
amazing. That is
Yeah,
amazing.
it's a wonderful hobby. It really is.
So
A
did
hobby.
you?
It is a hobby.
Well,
It is a hobby.
Work at one of the insurance companies here in town, right?
I do. So that's why I call it hobby. I work full time at Country Financial in corporate communications.
So which building is that in here?
It's the IAA building.
So you're right by my office.
I think I am.
Hey, you guys, take it outside. We
Get a room.
first of all, we don't have a lot of time, and this is going to go real fast because
Yeah, he's talking
the
about
two of
his
us-
age, Julie. So,
between the two of us, I mean, we got a lot of questions.
so
All right, let's
did you
do it.
study writing anywhere, Julie?
That's
Because you're
what's
a
going to be
good
my first
writer.
question. because it sounds like
Thank
you've got
you.
writing in your background.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I've spent a lot of time at Illinois State University. My bachelor's degree was in public relations, so that gave me a nice foundation for writing for a targeted audience.
Mhm.
And I did a master's degree there as well, focusing on organizational communication. And then I went over to the English department and did a master's degree in English studies. So I have
Wow.
versatile writing experience and education.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that your husband?
It is not my husband. I've gotten that question before, though.
Yeah. So,
Oh.
and you have how many kids?
I have 3 children.
Oh,
My
wow.
oldest is 8, and I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Wow. Three.
3.
Wow. I had 3 kids. Sam is an amateur. He only had 2.
Yeah, but they were super
Amateur.
great. So I only needed I got it right the first 2 times. So.
That third one is a challenge, I'll say
Third
that.
one is the one that ends up
there
in
was one
jail.
always loose. Okay, so
Julie,
let's start off.
Did you have models for your writing? Did you have writers that you followed that you liked?
Yeah, so I've always been a romance reader. My grandma, she loved Nora Roberts and Danielle Steele and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so she would read books and she'd pass it to my mom, and my mom would read them and then she'd pass it on to me. So it's clearly like a genetics thing. We've all loved romance forever. So it's really, really fun. And I know my mom is always saying, she's like, it's just so cool that you get to like write these stories, the stories that we've read our entire lives. And so it's really cool to have that, kind of trajectory of inheriting this from my grandma and my mother. And now I get to write it myself.
I just think it's so, but where did it, okay, so that kind of explains sort of the genesis of it, the fact that you have mentors who read these novels. But okay, were you tough to date?
I don't know. I don't think I was. But
well, I'm just wondering what your expectations being a romance novelist and having the design, that guy, what? No flowers? Who are you? Get out of my life. But I mean, does that put a lot of pressure on? Do you have this vision of what romance is and it ought to be, and so therefore are people living up to that, meaning your husband?
My husband indeed lives up to it.
Really?
I will totally admit he's my high school sweetheart. We have not dated anybody else. I got it right the first time, I suppose. So
that's
not a story everyone can tell. Yeah.
See, and that's romance right there.
It is. It's my life.
Have you written about it?
I have not. No.
Because there's a story.
There is a story. Yep.
You know what?
Yeah.
That guy up here, Sammy, same sort of deal.
See? That's a beautiful story. Marry your high school sweetheart.
I was with him on the first, was it the first date with Terry?
Well, Terry said the first date, she didn't know if she was on a date with Mark or me.
Yeah.
It was a setup deal. We went to the movies. I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know.
So I love it.
We went, we all went Dutch. So
that was high school.
Yep.
Or maybe right at, well, no, it was high school, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
it was right at the end of our high school because Terry and I didn't have our first date until
Terry was still trying, was almost out of 8th grade.
Yeah. Just
I like your dynamic. I see what you're doing.
So okay. As a romance novelist, and the pictures on here, do you go to a stock photo thing for romance novelists and choose it? Is that how it works? Or
no, it's a great question. So I work with a publisher, Inkspell Publishing. They're a small press publisher based out of South Carolina.
Right.
And basically the process is once I have written a manuscript and she has signed off on it and we sign our contract with our agreement, she connects me with a designer, and then I collaborate with that designer to bring my vision to life. So that image that you're looking at there is indeed a stock image, but it's purchased, and it's one that we've kind of selected together that kind of fits the design and the elements of the story.
Well, can we back up a little bit even before that? Because I have an interest in the whole process. So how did you hook up with this? So Are you self-published or so it's not, I mean, you're going through a
Yeah.
publisher, right?
Yep,
So
correct.
how did you find this publisher? How does that work?
Mhm.
Tell our listeners.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'll start by saying I got super lucky. I got super lucky. That story that you read, Sam, so that was my debut novel. It's called I Loved You Yesterday. And that was the one that started as a screenplay when I was in graduate school,
Oh,
right? So that's
Mhm.
kind of the story behind that one.
listeners, there's a
Um,
lot going on in that story. I'm
there's
telling
a
you.
lot.
If it
It's
doesn't
so
touch
fun.
at least
It's
five
so
of the
fun.
buttons, you've
It's a good one, I promise. But when I finished that story, I knew that I wanted to obviously find a publisher or have somebody that would help me out with the process. There's nothing wrong with self-publishing. I have lots of friends and authors who go that direction. I just didn't feel like indie was the path for me, and I wanted to see if I could get somebody to collaborate with me. So I directly submitted the manuscript to Inkspell Publishing and Melissa Kier, she
well,
is
how did,
the
how did you
owner.
find them? How did
Oh,
you
I spent a ridiculous amount of hours on the internet seeking out potential publishers. I researched and researched and researched some more. And
So
for
are
the
these
yeah.
filters,
Mhm,
when you tell us someone writing a book, for instance,
mhm.
and they wanted to go this route, are you filtering out the publishers to those who are predominantly romance novelists?
Yeah, for the most part, I was seeking
Okay.
out agents who represent romance as well
Mhm.
as publishers who will take manuscripts as a direct submission. And she was the
Uh,
one who responded to me first. And as a newbie, I was super
really?
excited and
yeah.
absolutely ready to sign whatever she was going to give me. So Inkspell got my first manuscript, and I've been very happy with that experience so far.
Wow.
Hmm.
That is cool.
Yes.
Did
Cool.
she, so you send a, so we've talked to several writers and
Yeah.
authors on here,
Hmm.
right? So they all have a little different,
Yep.
some, it's just a weekend thing and they
Yep.
put something together and you kind of can tell it. But others, are definitely, they had, like one guy was saying that he worked with an editor first.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
and he said, you can't trust anything you write on the paper. Somebody else has got to read it. So, can you
Yep.
speak to that a little bit about how that
Yeah.
worked for you?
Absolutely. I fully support all book editors. They are wonderful people and they're only there to make your story shine. For my first book, I absolutely did work with an editor. Her name is Emma O'Connell, and I connected with her on Instagram, actually. She's a wonderful editor who took my story and she did a developmental edit first. So just going through to make sure that the story, connected, there weren't any plot holes. My writing was fluid. The story was, connected from the beginning to the end. And she looked at it holistically. And I don't know what that story would look like without her insight. So
Really?
fully support developmental editing.
Did
And
you
then,
find her
mhm.
first before the publisher, or did the
Oh, I found
publisher
her
hook you
much
up with
before.
her?
Much before. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with that manuscript at the time. So I worked with Emma first so we could get a story that we both felt really comfortable with. She went through and did a line edit as well and a proofread. So I felt really good about where the story was before I started to shop around and find a publisher.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
So
And they don't do that for free. You had to pay.
Nope. For that first one,
Mm.
I certainly paid out of pocket because I wanted to make sure that my story was as good as it could be before I started showing it to others.
Right.
But once you do sign a publishing contract, you still get paired with an editor. So I even had two rounds of edits
Oh
with two
yeah.
different
Oh,
editors
okay.
for that story.
And
Mhm.
okay, so to that, did you find that one editor disagreed with the other editor?
Yeah,
Uh, I mean, did they see eye to eye on
well,
the
that's a
page?
good question. So
That's
my
a good
my
question.
first editor, I really was focused on the developmental part of it. I wanted to make sure the story made sense, the characters were well developed, the dialogue was strong. And then on the second edit, it was mostly about, let's change this word, or maybe we could say this a little bit differently. Like, so it was kind of focused on two different things. So two different lenses, two different purposes.
But you don't feel that that your vision changed in any way. They
No,
didn't
I really
put
don't.
into a different tack.
No, I've heard lots of authors who have had very different experiences. I can't speak to that. That I've had nothing but positive experiences with both of the editors that I've worked with.
That's very
Mhm.
cool.
Yes.
That's very cool. Now, do they then, are you out there doing talk shows and interviews and things like that? Do they put you on a circuit?
I wish, but with a small press publisher, that reach it's just not there.
Oh, okay.
But
I'm at a point, yeah.
I did a little investigating on you.
Yeah.
And you've done something here in town because I looked
Mhm.
up Bob Zabay books and you
Yeah.
got signed copies there.
I do. Well, lucky for me, right? My background is in public relations and marketing. So I kind of know how
Yeah,
to do some of the
I know
things
how
that I
to,
do
right.
professionally, and I can, use those skills for my own purposes. So without a doubt, I've built some really nice connections here in Bloomington Normal. A lot of great support from indie bookstores, and most recently, I was on the local Champaign News, so that was kind of fun to do a little
Cool.
spotlight, a little
Mhm.
segment there, and so yeah, I can find my own ways to kind of, promote myself and
Are
hopefully
you
find
So
some
you
readers.
finding that in your milieu right there in the
Mhm,
Bloomington Normal area
mhm.
that all of a sudden there's more writers there than you thought there were, and that you've
Oh
met a
my
lot of
gosh.
good people and
Yes, yes, without a doubt. I felt, I'm very new to this industry. I'm like, I've
yeah.
5 years or so in, and I never once thought about, authors or local writers or what people were
Mhm.
doing. And just the people that I have been exposed to and all the similarities and crossovers. And so many
Mhm.
people have been so kind and helpful and willing to support me. And I like to think that I'm paying it back and helping others with what I've learned because this industry, it is hard. It is really challenging and really difficult to break into it.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, the local support here has been absolutely incredible.
So did you make those connections through Bob Zabay or some other?
Oh gosh, all over the place. I've done, I mean, probably in the neighborhood of 50 to 75 different book signings and different book events. And so I've made connections there. I've made connections online through different, Facebook groups, or I have a nice group on Instagram that I've cultivated. It's just here and there who you know and who you network with. And, I've liked to think that I've made a name for myself in this community where others will proactively reach out to me. And
Mhm.
it's been a good network that I've built here.
Has a local newspaper or online, has anybody contacted you to create your own Dear Julie regular article that
I
people
would
can write
love
in
that. I
You
would
about
need to hook
their
up,
absolutely love that.
Julie.
romance issues? Contact Dear Julie.
You need to hook up with Scott Miller and get that done, Julie.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I would love to. I would love
Wouldn't
to.
that
Well,
be? I think that would be a good idea for you. I
mhm,
think that would be you
it'd be
because you've
so
got a great
fun.
personality, and you could do this, Dear Julie, and there's probably even a local radio
Hey, you could
station
have your
with,
own
Mhm.
podcast, the Dear
yeah,
Julie podcast,
Oh,
where
I
yeah,
you
like
yeah.
talk
that
romance
plan.
stuff all
Right,
day.
right, right.
Well, I'm putting it out into
So,
the universe right now, then. That's next for me.
so a question
Mhm,
on these the romance novel genre.
mhm,
Do you find now I've only, I haven't read a lot of romance novels. But for instance, this one
mhm,
I got through it, and um, uh, it's funny for someone who doesn't read a guy who doesn't read romance novels.
mhm.
I was sort of, okay, I've got to start reading this, and you start reading it, and then you find yourself starting to get invested,
Get sucked
and
in.
you're going, oh man, you don't want to get around that dude, man. Oh God, you know. So, oh, I
That's
see what's funny,
right. That's right.
but
Stay,
but
run, run.
but
Don't call him. Don't call
is
him back.
there a formula? Do you have a formula, and how do you keep it from each one being kind of a repeat of the one before? Just maybe,
Yeah.
well, they're the same characters though, right? So in a
Uh,
trilogy. So
somewhat,
yeah,
yes.
I mean you can
So no, that's
introduce.
a great question because you're absolutely right. When it comes to writing a romance story, it's a 4-act structure, and certain things have to happen at certain times throughout the story to keep the reader, invested and interested. So yeah, totally formulaic. There's a template. What I really like to focus on is not necessarily the plot, right? It's the characters that
Uh,
pull you into the story.
right.
That's what keeps you reading, right? You want to, invest yourself in a specific character and what are their goals? What do they want? What are their fears? What are their flaws? Like that's what pulls you in as a reader, right? And that spans across all genres. That's not specific to
Right.
romance. So when I write, I primarily focus on the character. And there are so many different characters, characteristics, and flaws, and all kinds of stuff that you can write into people. So my hope is that when readers are reading through my stories, they don't find that there's the similar plot structure because they're focused on the new characters that they're learning about.
Wow. Okay.
If we're going to stay on technique,
I was going to say, is it difficult to go out? Were your husband to go out with you? Because are you always scanning the room going, oh, that's my Darby. That's my Darby over there. You know?
Well, what's really funny is he's a writer as well. And
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
we are people watchers by nature.
Okay.
That's just something when you're out in public and, you're just looking around and you observe human characteristics and traits and, what people do,
Right.
how you can tell like if they're uncomfortable or if they're attracted to somebody, right? Like we do the same things that showcase those kinds of emotions. So it's kind of funny, but we're people watchers. We will always comment and, you bank it up here and you use it in a future story.
Right.
What's your husband's name, Julie?
His name is Thomas Navickas, and he works at Illinois State University. So he writes for the College of Education.
Oh, wow.
I think I met him. How would
Probably.
Interesting.
It just now dawned on me. I think I know him.
That's so funny.
Do you guys,
Yeah.
okay, Julie, do you guys sometimes practice stuff? This is terrible. But I mean, do you say,
at least that phone
you
call?
try
Like, don't
something
take
like-
the phone.
like try something romantic with him and then go, what did that do for you? Was that okay? Did you feel any romance there or any kind of emotions, or-
I don't know that I could admit to that on a podcast.
Oh, okay. Aha. All right.
So the other thing I noticed, there was several references to was it The Hobbit in the book
Yeah.
I read? So is that are you a Hobbit?
Absolutely. One of my most favorite things in the entire world is the Middle Earth Legendarium. I love Tolkien. I love The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, the Silmarillion,
wow.
all of it. It's just my passion. So yeah, you'll find in every single story that I write, there is at least a tiny little nod to something.
Really?
within that
Oh,
film.
I guess I hadn't. What was it in this one? I hadn't.
So you're in Trusting Love, which means that there is a small line about midway through where Tess, the main character, admits that her favorite book is The Hobbit.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yep. So some are a little bit more prominent than others.
You would talk about writers and writers groups and such. Can you imagine that walking down the street and see Tolkien and C.S. Lewis walking together down the street?
I can't even.
I mean, they were buds. They were
They were
drinking
buds.
I'm like, yeah, what? And I hang around with Mark.
Yeah.
You could do
Yeah,
work.
Sam and I are wannabe book writers.
Love it.
Sam has a plethora of poems that I think are ready right now to plunk down into.
That's lovely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of
Doesn't Bob's Bay do poetry reading?
They do.
I got to connect with those people.
Oh,
there you
please
go.
do. Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah,
They
I
do
gotta
open
connect
mic
with
night.
those.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And they're so supportive of local authors too.
That's
So
what I've been
That's
hearing,
great.
and I don't know them. I don't know how I don't know them.
oh, I'll connect you. Liz is
Okay.
wonderful.
So how does what's your writing technique like? Do you like Hemingway, you get up in the morning, sharpen 8 pencils and write 2.5 hours and quit where you still know the next word's going to be?
I wish I could.
I was going to
say
bring up
that.
Neil Gaiman, but now after this week, I don't think I will bring him up, but
maybe not.
yeah.
No, my writing structure looks different every day because I have to fit it in around being a full-time parent and a full-time worker. So some days I would love to wake up early, 4 a.m. Nobody else needs me. Nobody else is nagging me for anything. And I can spend, 2 hours just focused on my story. But I also like to sleep, right? So that doesn't always happen for me. So more often than not, I spend time in the evening hours, or I take my lunch hour and I work on it there. Or if I'm at basketball camp with my son or dance with my daughter, I'll sit in the waiting room. No shame.
Yeah.
I bring my laptop everywhere and I work where I can.
So you write on the laptop then?
Sure do.
Do you outline?
I used to. I no longer do.
I'm
more confident now.
I mean, you just write.
I do. Yep.
You can you feel the rhythms and you just start to and you go
Exactly.
back and you can
Do the
Exactly.
characters just take off and do their own thing, or do you?
They really do. They really do. I'm working on my ninth book right now. And
Wow.
at this point, I'm like, okay, I know what to do and what to stay away from. Pace is very important, right? When you're writing a story. And so the slower you can go and the more you can tease out those character flaws, the better shape you'll be in. So those characters they just start coming to life and they tell you their story.
Hmm. Hmm. What, but I still trying to think about how many different romance situations can you be in? I
You'd be
mean,
surprised.
I guess it's just life. You're just talking about life and everything that happens in life, and then romance is in the life. But
Mhm, mhm.
these characters are having life happen to them as well.
Exactly.
So that's where the big differences can be, where it
Mhm.
keeps it from being formulaic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Because you're absolutely right. Stories tend to be following that template and very formulaic. So the stories that you both read are strictly contemporary. The entire
Yeah.
relationship is the focus of the story. And
Right.
after I wrote 6 of those, I thought, wow, I don't want to do another one of these. I need to try something a little bit different. So the last several
Right.
books that I've written, I've kind of turned to more of a romantic suspense genre,
Oh,
which has given me a new challenge because
sure.
I'm writing from a first person perspective, which is new. But it
Huh.
also gives me that added challenge of it's not just about the relationship and what the characters are doing. There's an external plot that's much more important. That's what's propelling the story forward instead of the characters. So it's been very
Right.
fun. I really like this process. I'm kind of sticking with this for now.
Suspense, meaning that
Mhm.
someone's been murdered or there's a
Could be.
mystery of some sort that,
Exactly. Yep. Some type of law enforcement issues or all kinds of stuff.
oh,
So,
yeah.
Pretty much describe most of Mark's life right there.
Yeah. So, huh.
You got
But
him down pat.
how long does it take you to write a book? Man, you've been pretty prolific for
Yeah.
5 years
Yeah.
writing books.
I
I mean,
used
that's
to I used to be in higher education, and so my life revolved on the academic calendar. So I
right.
could with certainty say I could write an entire book in a summer, I could write one over winter break. Some took me a little bit longer because I was in the middle of a semester and focused on other things. So
Got it.
I would say typically the longest it's taken me is maybe 6 to 7 months. And I have written one, not a stellar first draft, but I've done one in about 2.5, 3 weeks.
Man, that's a lot of pages a day.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
it.
But I love it,
Okay,
right? Find what you love.
Yeah.
so that's an interesting point, Sam, is do you, as far as organizing your
Mhm.
time, do you say each day I'm writing 10 pages, 5 pages, or do you set a goal and
No, I don't. I don't like word counts. I don't like pages.
okay.
I can feel successful without having to meet a specific number. So
Mhm.
if I know that I have spent time and I have enhanced a scene, or even if I've gotten 2 lines out, if I've progressed in some way,
Right.
check
It's
that
giving
box
you
for
a
my goal for the day. Exactly.
path for moving forward. So
Right. I don't want
what
to write
about the
500
publishers? Do
words. Yeah.
they
Hmm.
do they go into that speak? Do they go, okay, well, how many words is it?
Hmm.
How
Hmm.
many pages and what
Yep.
font style or size
Absolutely.
font?
Hmm.
They
Yep.
want to
When
know
you're
really how much you've sent them the
without
book.
a doubt. Yep.
So
Yeah, well, they'll want to know about the estimated word count so they can kind of decide what publisher, what path is going to be best. And,
uh,
when it comes to like font and page number, that's all like the interior formatting that goes into it.
at what age what do you have? You have 3 kids?
Mhm.
What flavors?
My oldest is a girl, and then I have 2 younger boys.
So I didn't get the girl. But at what age will you let her read one of your novels?
Oh gosh. I would say my work is appropriate for, I'll say 16.
Okay.
It's pretty, at least what I read was pretty safe. I mean, there's some adult themes,
Yeah,
but
Yeah, but
without a doubt. There's some moments, right? There's
there's
some
some
spice. There's some
steamy
yeah,
spice.
thoughts here, and
Yep.
but you know what I like about it is it's it's a lot of so much of it is doing the right thing and going with your instincts and going with
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
that
There's
if you
more
can
to it,
teach
right?
a young adult to trust their instincts
Exactly. Form
um,
good friendships
and
and
form good
rely on, yep.
friendships and take care of
Hmm.
others and be there for
that's
others.
what
Exactly.
we should have had, Mark, when we were younger.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
You were
know.
missing out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. What about, okay, what have you learned from people who read romance novels? Have you learned anything from them that you say, okay, I've got to put a nurse in every one of my books, or I mean, what
Mhm.
are there conceits that have to be in all romance novelist books? And I don't mean,
Mhm.
a scene on a couch or something like that, but I mean, something, right?
Yes. There's one big one,
Oh,
and that
really?
it has to have a happily ever after
Oh,
or a
I love
happily
it.
for now. Yes. That's the number one thing. You can't call it a romance unless it ends with a happily ever after or a happily for now. So that's the
Okay.
one thing that you can't, like, no publisher, no agent will talk to you if you're saying this is a romance book if it ends in
The
any kind
person
of negative
dies.
way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No,
You can't
no.
do it. Now
Double
you're in women's
homicide,
fiction.
murder,
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's the
suicide.
difference
Yep.
between Sam and I. I have to have heroes that I'm reading about or reading,
Yeah,
and they
I'm a
have to kill
Hemingway guy. All
everybody else.
right.
But they have to kill
Old
everyone
man in the
else.
sea
My
didn't get the
hero.
fish. He didn't get the nothing. He ended up broke back on the beach. I'm
Yeah.
good with that.
Different genres, right?
Different
Different
genres,
readers,
Yeah.
different genres. Yes,
different
But
things.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
well, okay, so as far as goals, all right.
Yes.
So now you've got a prolific amount of books that you've written. So you've honed your skills. So in challenging yourself, I love the
Mhm.
idea of the suspense. So you
Yes.
add an Agatha Christie, or
Hmm.
not, but some kind of
Yes.
mystery or suspense in there. So you've got these two lines of,
Yep.
you got the romance, and you've got, oh crap, what happened? And we got to solve this or whatever. But what about, do you challenge yourself with period pieces? Like,
Hmm.
I want to do
Hmm.
one in the 1700s, and
Yep. Yep.
Civil
No,
War.
that's a great question. So historical romance is a
right.
massively wild genre for sure. I don't know enough about it, and that's not exactly my cup of tea.
Uh,
But it's there, right? It's certainly an option. I would love to, at some point, write a story that encapsulates two different timelines. So a character could exist in, present day, and then the next chapter you might read could be 50 years prior.
Is
So
that like
balancing those two working timelines and how the stories can collide, I would love to write something like that.
the French Lieutenant's Woman or something like that?
I don't know.
Remember that?
well, so that would be generational.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you're dealing with the daughter, or you're dealing with the
Yes.
younger, and then
Hmm.
all of a
Even
sudden that harkens or reminds the mom about a time that she had when she was that daughter's age, and the next chapter is 50 years earlier. She's gone through
Exactly.
the same
Just
thing.
play
And
with the timelines a little bit,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
There's
yeah.
something there. I haven't worked out of it yet.
I think you should go all the way back.
All the way
Adam
back.
and Eve, and the fight over the apple, the dealing with the snake,
That
and
story's been told.
romance, and
That's
will you still love
already
me
told,
after
Mark.
all this is done? You know,
There's not that many people around in
Really?
that scene.
I know,
It'd
but
make it
she's got to
just
wonder:
two
is
of
Adam
them.
still going to love me? I ate this
Well,
apple,
she doesn't even have a friend to call. She
and
can't call
then
somebody and said, "This guy, he's lording over me. Won't let me have the apple. Should I
oh,
have that?"
that's
She
where
can't
you
even
talk about
call
the inner
anybody.
thoughts. It's the inner thoughts, her inner dialogue is
Well,
happening.
that you can get into some, that
Yeah.
stream of
And then
consciousness
anyway,
thing.
Yes.
listen, I'm a big picture guy. Just make it happen, Julie. I don't know, but you just, that's it. So Sam,
I'll put it on my list. I'll think about
yeah,
I'm
it.
sure.
yeah,
I already know this, Mark. In her next book, she's going to dedicate to you and me.
yeah, yeah. What not to be.
Here,
Yeah, yeah,
here's
yeah.
what you don't do in
Uh,
life if you want to be successful.
but you know what though? I love this idea though of you as a romance. I've never thought about this, how that reflects in your parenting.
Hmm.
You know, I mean,
Well, that's
that's
an
got to be
interesting
interesting because
question.
you have an idea about how boys should treat
Hmm.
girls, how
Without a doubt.
girls should treat boys, how you got to
Hmm.
be a girl, especially in social media now. You've got to be so insecure with yourself because
Yeah.
people will get on social media. Do you allow your kids social media? Do they?
They're not old enough. I mean, my oldest is 8. There's no way she needs to be exposed
No.
to that world right
Right,
now.
right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-mm.
but there are a lot of, I bet you there are kids that are,
Oh gosh, of course there are. Of course
you
there are.
know.
Yeah, no, I mean, a very valid thing that I certainly do need to think through and work on.
Does she push back
It's
at that age about
No,
social media?
not yet, not yet. I
What
mean,
school she go to, Julie?
she's at North Point Elementary.
So do you know my daughter, Candace Hudgens?
That name sounds really
Yeah,
familiar.
because the Olive went there. She's in junior high now, but she went to
Oh,
North Point. Yeah.
oh.
Yeah, Olive.
Sam, you and I do have an interconnected
I'm
circle.
telling you, we probably passed each other a dozen
Oh,
times.
without a doubt, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You two get your own podcast, okay? Because
Mark, why don't
We're
you just
leaving
click
Mark
off
out.
now? I can finish this up. You
all
know,
right.
have Tammy click you off because you can't click
Yeah,
off
yeah,
Click
yourself.
you off.
Hey, what about, all right, Sam knows I'm going to ask this. As
Oh,
a
God.
writer with AI, do they ask you, did you use AI? Do the publishers
gosh,
ask
yep.
At least
that?
he didn't wait till there's 2
the
minutes
bot-
left in this show.
Oh, AI. Oh my God. The hot button issue. Yes, you do have to reveal. You have to disclose if you have used AI for any part of the work that you're producing. And I mean, I am a
I
firm
would think
believer. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
would think in romance novels, you could type in the,
Ugh, I'm sure you could.
some basic top lines and stuff, and then go,
Mhm.
go,
Done. Yep.
let's see what happens. You
Yep.
know,
You certainly can. That's the world we live in today. And it's so disappointing and so disheartening for someone
Yeah.
who just finds the joy in telling the story and really working on the craft to do it well,
Yeah.
that you at the click of a button, you could produce the same thing or
It
close
is
to
pretty
it.
shocking what
Yeah.
I've used it for, as far as research.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to join a webinar for businesses, how to use Chat GPT. I'm going to be on I missed the first one, but
you are going to?
I know. I just think
You barely got on this podcast today.
they have let the cat's out of the bag, and I don't you know what, here's what I read, and I sorry to get on a tangent here, but this is what I was told legislatively what they need to do. They need to think of it as the Hippocratic Oath, that writers need to take an oath and publishers that, if you
I think you're right.
do something and use it.
Yeah.
And
But
creates
plagiarism is already illegal.
The
And
what?
people still plagiarize.
Yes, they do.
Plagiarism is.
No, I know that, but I'm talking about
I'm agreeing with you that it's in the sense that it's plagiarism.
In AI that we would with doctors, that we have doctors do by signing a Hippocratic Oath. I think you have to do that with AI too, so that if it is abused, you have a mechanism to prosecute or to do something with those people, because this AI
about art affects the artist as much as anybody. So
this is the tip of the iceberg. And it's not just artists, it's everything. Everything. I can't tell you how many people, if you stood up in a room and said, how many of you use ChatGPT? There's a bunch of them.
Everyone.
Now.
Yep.
Everyone's using it, especially in your former business, public relations and writing press releases and, things like that.
I tell you, on things on mundane, everyday things where you got a blank page, it's hard to beat.
Yeah. Well, remember that one writer, the one writer we interviewed, won't say any names, but I mean, he wrote his whole thing was written AI. He gave it the chapter headings, and it was a self-help book. And literally, he told it what each chapter, what he wanted it to be about, and it wrote this book for him.
Whoa.
And we're going.
That one hurts. That one hurts.
Hey, we're getting down to 1 minute. I got a picture.
Hey, should we take the picture?
Yeah, let's take a picture. So act like we're gonna smile at the camera.
All right.
All right, that's good.
Good.
Julie,
so Sam,
you and I got to do coffee or something.
I would love that.
Bums of Bay books or something.
Absolutely.
We need to make that connection here. And
I would love that very much, Sam. Let's do it.
And if you want a signed copy of her book, go to Bombs of Bay. They got them there. I know that for a fact. And
that's true.
It's just been, I was looked forward to this all week. And
me too.
Yeah. I mean, I
wasn't disappointed at all. A little bit in Mark. I was a little disappointed.
I'm putting this up in my Airbnb. I'm sure there's people up there that are going to want to read this. Trusting Love.
Perfect.
Mark's got the perfect romantic place to write a novel on. I'm not.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
In fact,
yeah.
they specialize in that kind of stuff out there.
Yeah,
He's out of Lake County. Look him up. Hey, we got to say goodbye to Julie, or we're
all
going
right.
to cut off.
Julie,
We could talk
you've been
forever.
wonderful.
Yes,
You both have
absolutely.
been so delightful. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for having
All right.
me.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Good. 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 Enough. As good enough. Good. 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 Enough. As good enough.